Sound speeds. And that's the loudest I'm going to be in this entire episode. I've been burning the midnight oil a lot, trying to shoot and edit a lot of things for sound speeds and upcoming videos. A lot of what I've been doing isn't something that you're going to see in the next week or two. It's going to be stuff like B-roll footage for upcoming videos, or it's collaborations or things like that. I've been doing a lot of that kind of thing and getting ahead in some ways, but at the same time, I'm working 14 hours a day roughly on the show that I'm working on. And that's taking a toll, man. It's getting really, really tough. So I decided to kind of postpone the video that I was going to be working on tonight and instead do this instead, because I realized that about the time I would be releasing a video, my channel will probably have about 10,000 subscribers. And by the time this video launches, I will have crossed over that threshold. 5 digits of subscribers, believe it or not, I thought I would never get there. And this was my goal. This has always been my goal, is to hit 10,000 subscribers. And originally it seemed like a very difficult thing to do. And the reason why is because Matt Price of Sound Rolling was one of my original people that I followed and asked a lot of advice for. He started his YouTube channel probably 2 or so years before I started Sound Speeds, maybe even more than that. But he was killing it with content daily, and he was interviewing people constantly and just doing nonstop stuff. And for all of his work and hundreds of videos, he only had about 3,000 something subscribers. And I looked at that and said, well, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the workload that he does in his videos, because at the time he was a single guy. He, I think, got married during that, and now he's doing some other ventures. But he also inspired quite a few other people that have started YouTube channels. And but he was my main mentor, I guess, with regards to YouTube and sound, because he's a professional sound mixer, ENG sound mixer in the UK. He does a lot of work in the London area, or at least he used to. But I decided to go a different route. I'm a boom operator that works in the film industry, and decided to put a lot of the knowledge that I have acquired throughout the years on set and been teaching in real life classes and teaching people. I decided to do that in a channel. And I know that is a niche of a niche of a niche of interest. And the fact that I don't ask for likes, shares, subscribes, and donations, it would only happen if somebody was interested in doing that. And a lot of the times people don't think about it unless you ask them to. Now, granted, yes, it is in my outro, but most of the time people will click off of an outro or click on another video, so you don't even hear the entire outro. That's fine. I've never done this for the money or for the subscriber count or any of that kind of stuff. I've always done this because I like teaching. Originally, the reason why, if you watch my history of sound speeds, or whatever that video was called, and why I started Sound Speeds, the reason why I started it is because I was teaching a lot of classes and kept answering the same questions over and over again. Also wanted to have some visual aids to use in my classes. So I started doing a lot of videos teaching things like what I would be using to reinforce what I was teaching, or to answer questions that I don't want to have to answer all the time. So I could just say, watch this video. Let me just send you this video instead. And now I have over 300 videos on my channel, and there's a lot of questions that I'll receive, and I'll say, your answer is here. Your answer is here. Someone will ask a question in Discord. I'll say, your answer is in this video. And that's kind of nice. It is nice to have that archive to pull from, but there is a lot of videos I still want to do. And time is always difficult because I don't do YouTube full time. As a matter of fact, I barely find the time to do it. I sacrifice a lot of sleep still to do this channel. That and the fact that I can't seem to stop spending a lot of money just to do videos that I want to do. So it's not the best thing. If you want to call it a hobby, call it a hobby. My wife originally called it that. Now she doesn't call it that, because after starting the channel, I decided to make it a brand. So I own a couple of trademarks on Sound Speeds, for example. And I do have plans ultimately to take some of my ideas and turn them into products. And if there happens to be a vendor out there that would like some ideas, that there are products that are just not made, or they're not made in a very efficient, or let's say almost a better way, maybe not better, but definitely a different way that people would probably appreciate. and there is a market in it. So if anybody wants to consult or I guess license some of the ideas or talk to me about a business partnership or something like that, by all means, love to talk to you. But I'm getting sidetracked here because my goal here in this video is to actually go over a few things. I've decided to make a few changes on the channel. I'm still going to be doing the same kind of content that I've been doing. I like doing that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be answering a few questions later on in this video, but there are 3 changes I wanted to go over. Number 1 is with 10,000 subscribers, I'm hoping that it unlocks the Teespring merch store. Now, I've had that as a link in the description for the longest time, but I've never pushed it. I've never done anything with it. But if you have an interest in getting SoundSpeed's merch, I might put it under some of the videos. I might put it under all the videos. I might put it under none of them and it might just disappear. Who knows? But what I do know is that it is at least an option that is available to me, I believe, unless they've changed it, once you hit 10,000 subscribers. So we'll see. I don't know at the time that I'm shooting this video because it's going to be set to launch by the time I hit 10,000. And right now I'm at 9,996 as of this exact moment, right before I started recording. The second thing that I was going to mention is that if you happen to be a member of the YouTube channel, in addition to the perks that you get, I'm going to try to do a live stream just for you guys. A live stream. People love to hear me scream in my reviews. That's one of the comments. People, I love hearing you scream. I'm like, thanks. But I'm going to try to do a live stream at least quarterly. It's not part of the benefits that I originally signed up for with the membership either of any of the 3 levels, but I decided I was going to do that, and I will probably include the Patreon supporters I've had in the live stream also, just because it would be an added benefit to the to those people, and this would just be a live stream for them. I still plan on trying to do live streams from time to time. It's just been so difficult with my workload, and honestly, with the amount of different projects and stuff I've had going on, and there's another one that was I was offered a pretty awesome opportunity, and I can't announce it now, but in the next couple of months, I hope to be able to. It will be a pretty awesome thing that will be yet another way that me and my brand will be out there, and I'll be teaching in a different way and stuff. I'm still going to be working in the film industry. I mean, that's my whole cred right there, the fact that I do what I say I do. But it's going to be an extra awesome thing that I can't go into. And I'm very, very happy about it, but that's going to be a lot more work also. So I don't want to say I'm going to be phoning it in on episodes, but I'm going to be definitely tired a whole lot, trading some sleep for some of these opportunities I've been handed, or offered, I should say, not handed. But anyway, the live stream, I will be trying to do at least quarterly. I'm going to try to see if I could do it at least 4 times a year, perhaps 5, 6, 7, who knows? You know, during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown, I was doing a live stream every day or 2. There was one day that I did 2 live streams in one day, and both of them were over 4 hours long. It was just crazy. I could not get away with it. I just loved talking sound and not being on set. Really I was missing it. I was missing the interaction. I was talking to other, people in the live stream. They would ask a sound question. I'd get all excited and, get hyped up on ZipViz and then answer questions. And it was really fun. But I've not had the energy level to shoot episodes of SoundSpeeds, to edit episodes of SoundSpeeds, to shoot B-roll footage, to work on a couple of side projects that I have going on and still be a family guy. One of the funny things that I just realized is that on the weekends I'll come home, and if I'm trying to reverse my sleep schedule because we did a hard night working overnight on Friday night, and I come home and I go to sleep about 8 or 9 a.m. By the time I get up around 1 or 2, I want to still be with the family, and I will go downstairs. They'll be preoccupied. I'll catch them in the middle of something, and I'll doze off on the sofa. Well, one of the things I came to realize is that they've been taking my cell phone and start taking random pictures, and I find them. I'm like, oh, what is this doing? Oh, it's the girls pulling pranks on me. So my daughters do that kind of stuff just to mess with me. It's funny. The other and last change, I guess I'm going to say, is that I have over the years, and I do mean almost 4 years I've been doing SoundSpeeds, been asked a lot of questions via email. In the past, I've answered a lot of them. mainly just because I like to be helpful. I do like to be helpful, but just like professional writers who take time out of their writing schedule, if they're writing 8 to 10 hours a day, many people uh, many people who are professional authors will take time out to respond to fans. And that takes them away from time they were writing their novels that people love them for. And I don't want to say that I have like a whole lot of fans or anything, but I do get a lot of support questions, people asking me to help them with something. And I've done that in the past. In the past, I have done, if I've gotten a lot of questions, I've turned on the camera and I've recorded the actual answers. I've said, it's too much for me to sit there and type for 2 hours. So I just do a video and I've addressed them to camera and I've said, what you need to do is this, or get this. And I've held it up and said, connect this up to this and this and this, and then call me or respond back to me rather, and let me know. And there's been people that I've helped launch their careers. They have asked me questions and been interested in joining an industry or how to get started with something or what could they do to tweak something. There have been people that have asked me about soundproofing for a booth, for example. There's 2 or 3 people that have had issues with their sound booths, and I've said, well, you're getting echo off of the table. You need to, and I've told people what to do and how to do it, and they've corrected it. And some of the people that I've written have turned around and done, started doing, voiceover work and stuff, and it's really awesome. And I don't even have a background in voiceover, but I do have a background in acoustics, and I understand what it takes to actually do that kind of stuff. So that's where some of my professional expertise comes into play. But I don't have the time to respond to every single question in the depth and detail that I've always done. And I like doing that. But going forward, I'm only going to be responding to people that in that kind of a form and in detail, to people that are either Patreons. Probably would do that to the Patreons. I'll include them in the live stream, but most of the time Patreon people are like, they're definitely supportive, but the membership is going to be easier for me to handle this through, probably because it's a YouTube related thing. But I'm going to be able to verify the addresses and stuff easier through that. I don't know. I might also through Patreon. I don't know. I'll have to figure that one out. But where I'm going with this is that the support requests that I get, I'm going to start charging for support, the detailed support requests if you ask too much, because there's a lot of the times that I'll spend a couple of hours sometimes responding to somebody and help them tremendously. And I then will be brain dead the next day, or not able to shoot an episode of Sound Speeds that night. And sometimes I might only have a couple of hours and I say, well, instead of shooting this episode tonight, I'm going to go ahead and do this instead. And then I have to play catch up later, and it's very difficult. So my normal rates, I don't want to charge people, but I will charge, $25 is what I'll say to a Sound Speeds person that blindly messages me. Now, if you're a Patreon, I'll go ahead and include Patreon. I don't want to exclude anybody. If you're a Patreon supporter or if you're a YouTube member of at least $5, then I'll include you as well. I'll say that I'll just absolutely respond to you, because if you've been a supporter of the channel, then I'm going to absolutely support you back. So if you have a question or something like that, I will gladly help you in that way. But to outside people, sure, I'll answer your questions. I will gladly, answer a little bit here or there. Some of the questions that I can answer between setups and stuff on set, fine. But if you start asking me a long list of things, I just can't do that anymore. And those kinds of questions or emails come in a couple of times a week, if not more. And I just can't do it. It's cutting into a lot of my shoot time. It's cutting into family time. It's cutting into sleep time. And right now I'm exhausted. So those are the changes going forward. I'll be charging $25 for detailed type support requests. Simple support requests of, no, you don't need that, or you should get this instead, or between those two, I'd prefer this kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff I'll do for free, no problem. But if you want a detailed, like, could you please listen to these audio samples? I get quite a few of those. Can you listen to these audio samples and tell me of these 4 things, what do you think this particular buzz is? And then I have to then say, well, you sent me something and then you did some weird processing to it. So I need to hear the raw files and I have to get those back and I have to download it from a Dropbox, and then it's password protected. So I have to come back later and do it. And because someone didn't send me the password to it, or they apologize later, and then I download it. And by the time I listen to it, they're like, if you can, please respond. I have a need to try to get this done because I can record this weekend. My wife sat it down. I'm like, so now I have to, it's just one thing after another, and try to be helpful. I don't want to sound like a jerk or anything, or just someone who's money hungry or whatever else, because believe me, I've never done this for the money. But I guess you could say that if I'm going to be sacrificing shoot time, or, because sound speeds is a passion project for me on the side. I do have bigger purposes and things I want to do with the brand, but the video services and the video thing that I do through YouTube that you guys know me for, I want to be able to do that more, and I want to be creative about it. I don't want to end up writing a script for something, start shooting it, and then say I'm out of time because on the day or two after shoot release, I was responding to a bunch of messages and it got too late and I had to go to sleep because I only had 4 hours that night anyway. And I just don't want to do that anymore. And so I'm going to start, at least, if you're serious enough to really ask a professional sound person for detailed listening and professional advice on what you can do, I'm going to at least charge a basic fee, a little fee for that, unless you're a supporter of the channel, like I'm in my membership or my Patreon. That's the only reason why I'm going to do that, is because I want someone to be serious about it. Because there's sometimes people just don't do legwork. They'll just ask me questions because they don't want to look it up. And I'll jokingly say, ask Bandrew at his Bandrew Says podcast or something like that. And there was actually a guy that did that. It was funny because he asked me a question. I said, ask Bandrew. And he asked Bandrew, and Bandrew answered it, in a question of his podcast. I'm like, wait a second now. I know that question. But it ended up being a funny thing. It's consumer audio and microphones for podcasting and stuff is not my specialty. And there's no question about it. If you start asking me about one interface or another, there are some that I've liked what I've heard, and I like the feature set or something like that. It may not go with the mainstream, just like, a lot of the things I say doesn't go with the mainstream viewpoints of a lot of people. And there's been a lot of people that in the past have said certain things, and then I jump out there and put my opinion out there and say, I'm just not a fan of it. And then some people change their opinions. That happens with pretty much everybody who's a content creator. I'm sure that some people will have an opinion, then they hear Curtis Judd say something, and they'll say, actually, I think Curtis is right, or Bandrew, or just there's a whole bunch of people out there that have that voice, and when they can back up their thoughts on something, some people will change their minds or follow their line of thinking. But anyway, I also wanted to answer some questions that I'm constantly asked, and I wanted to answer. I've basically come up with a list of 8 questions that I'm commonly asked. I thought I'd do that as a fun little thing also. And this is kind of, I guess you could say, almost like a podcast type form. This isn't really a Sound Speeds podcast because that's a whole separate channel. This isn't the Sound Support channel podcast because I'm not answering support questions. I don't get a lot of questions through that. I get maybe one every 4 months or something, and it's not enough to do anything with. And I hate just letting a question sit there. So I don't respond in a podcast form. I just go ahead and say, let me just answer the thing for you, especially since they're usually pretty simple questions. Which would you prefer between these two microphones? I'm like, well, it's not my preference. I just go over a few things they need to consider so they can make the choice for themselves. But on the note of microphones, first question that I get quite often is, what is your favorite microphone? Well, it's actually, because I'm a boom operator that works in the film industry, the microphone that I dialed in on as really liking more than any other is the DPA 4017B. It is one that I absolutely love. It's on permanent loan pretty much from DPA right now. But this is it. It's a shotgun microphone. One of the reasons why I really like it is because it is dead flat. Now, you might look at the frequency response graph or impulse response, on the the DPA website or something like that. But one of the things that's really cool is that DPA gives you the actual recording right there. It shows you within the 2 dB margin of error how this microphone actually performs on a chart, and they measure the actual specs and then sign off on a technician that performed all those tests. So they tell you the conditions that they did all the calibrations in, the specifications list. They talk about all the different things and the sensitivity and just everything about it. But this is the actual specs for that microphone, and that does take time, and that is one of the reasons why I really like it. Now, a lot of microphone manufacturers will do their tests based on the prototype, based on the master microphone, so to speak, and then they will copy that in mass production. But that can lead to some problems, sometimes plus or minus 3 or 4 dB, which is one of the reasons why many manufacturers will offer matched pairs, which are usually either within a few numbers in the serial number, because that would mean that they were produced probably on the same day, using the same kinds of materials. Probably the machines were calibrated a certain way. So the machine that's stretching the diaphragm and putting the screws in, for example, there might be slight fluctuations based on humidity or based on different control elements or the tightness of the machine that actually does it. And those things can all change. The calibration of a microphone diaphragm, for example. Now, some manufacturers like Neumann will throw out many microphone capsules unless they meet their criteria and standard, but not all of them do. And so because a lot of manufacturers don't do it, you can look at the impulse response graph, but it's not going to be what you would expect it to be. It's not going to sound like you would look at it and say, well, it doesn't sound exactly right. Or you have two microphones and you're like, these sound totally different. It's because, for example, if you looked at that right there, it was a little bit more bass boosted. It actually curved up on the low end and then it went flat. So it started a one or so dB higher than the midline. And then it actually went flat for a while. And then as soon as it went above 20K, that's when it started to spike a little bit before dropping off just over like 33 or 34K or something like that. So it's flat within the frequency range of human speech, but you could get a DPA 4017B and have it actually not have a bass boost. It could actually start a 1 dB or so lower and then flatten out, or it might have a slight dip in the mids, something like that. It just depends. But to me, that I like the fact that they really put the fidelity and care into the microphone without coloration. That's one thing I really like. I used to really love certain microphones, but over the course of the years, I started to like bass boosted or presence boosted microphones less. And I like to hear the flat ones more. And the 4017B has great reach, it has great rejection, and it is dead flat. It doesn't embellish. To me personally, at this stage of my life, I like to have a microphone that accurately portrays what you hear. And the farther away you are from the subject that you're listening to, the less bass you hear, because that's physics. And the DPA, because it's flat, it basically sounds like someone would if you were a little bit more focused on the front, because it is a supercardioid and the person was farther away. Many microphone manufacturers that boost the bass a little bit, as people start to fall away and go away a little bit, what you still hear are the fundamental vocal frequencies. And when you hear those, you naturally think, oh, listen to that. It's pulling out all the richness in my voice. It sounds cinematic. You could say that, but then you also can't claim it's natural. Now, a lot of people will also say, I don't want to have a natural sounding microphone. I want it to sound cinematic. I want it to sound like a broadcast radio personality. And that's fine. Me personally, I like to have a flatter microphone. I like it to not embellish. I like it to just sound like me. Even this one right here that I like because of its size and form factor, it is still boosting my bass a little bit more than I like. And I could sure back the thing off a little bit, but then it would back off against my computer monitor, and then it would start to sound a little bit more echoey. And I'd hear reverb and weird artifacts in there, and you may even be hearing some of that now. Whenever you monitor your own self, you don't hear it in the same fidelity you do when you go back and post. So And I don't keep my headphones up extremely loud simply because I have headphones on all day long, 14 hours, and I don't want to come home and do this exact same thing with the volume up as loud as I do at work, which is usually slightly over the regular outside volume of people talking to me. I will usually keep it relatively low, or medium type. Let's just say, about the volume of the outside world. That way, this ear isn't overly loud, and the regular ear to the outside world is quieter, or I'm not damaging my hearing with this, and I'm not trying to strain. It sounds like I just have a microphone that's up, and the volume's all the same between both of my ears. During takes, though, I'll sometimes turn it up a little bit because I want to hear the background noises and hear what sounds I will notice and that kind of thing. But anyway, I'm getting totally off my path here. The 4017B, though, to me, it's extremely crisp without overly boosting anything. It doesn't boost the presence, which gives an artificial. When presence, to me, the way I usually describe it is it's kind of like adding an outline around a person. That if you take a picture of somebody, you kind of put an outline around that person, and so they stand out from the background a little bit more. That's kind of what the equivalent is, except that it's putting that around every word. So a presence boost, it actually can give you what I refer to as the infomercial effect, where you're watching an infomercial and you're brain dead at like 2 a.m. and all of a sudden someone comes on, and first of all, because the commercials don't have the same standards of loudness that the television show is, usually it's louder, but then you'll also have an abundance of higher pitch presence, the presence that you don't really want to have, but it's a very sharp sound, and they'll usually boost the presence because they know that will sound very, I don't want to say shrill or harsh, but it kind of is, by making every single word very detailed and, sibilant. It will make those words and voice stand out more to you. And that makes it more difficult for you to ignore them, especially when you're really tired and all you want to do is just doze. And if you're watching an infomercial, that's one of the reasons why they're so active and excited. And, watch me put this, flex tape on a big, huge thing and stop the water. You're like, wow, that's really cool at 2 a.m. And then you can't turn it off because of the energy and because it's just, fascinating, and because the detail and sibilance and presence of the voice is just, outrageous. DPAs don't do that. They don't try playing games with you. They just are the sound. And some people may call that boring. And some people, if you're used to presence boosted mics, you're going to say, well, the DPA didn't sound interesting. Fact of the matter is, though, it's a very natural sound. It sounds like your ears do. It doesn't embellish it or anything like that. That's one of the reasons why I like it. I like the fact that it is what it is. So anyway, that is my favorite microphone, at least as of right now. And it has been for the past few years, the 4017B by DPA. And that kind of leads me into my next question. I get this question a lot. Why don't I like a microphone in the frame when I do my show and when I do my episodes? The reason why, you could argue that, well, that was brilliant. Let's just drop my cell phone into the trash can. You could argue that it's because I'm a boom operator and I don't like to have a microphone in the frame. But I would say that probably the bigger reason is because I might talk with my hands. I might and I don't want to just have a microphone in here that's obscuring me. If you're doing radio, if you're doing something like a podcast only, fine. Get up on the microphone, get close to it if you want to. That way you don't have to have the gain up as loud. But if you're doing a YouTube video where there's picture involved, I don't like to have a microphone in front of my face because to me, it's distracting. Even this right here, it's not in my direct line of sight to you. It's off axis, which is one of the reasons why I don't have a pop filter on there. I'm not going to pop the microphone because I'm looking at you and it is off axis. So I don't need to worry about the plosives or anything like that because I'm not speaking towards it. Yet it is still in front, angled right at my mouth. And it is a good, 8 inches away or so. Even then, it's probably picking up a little bit of reflection off of that monitor back there. I don't have the headphone volume up very loud, as I mentioned before. But I would imagine it also has a bit of a more bass than I normally have because my CAD Equitech E100 up there that I usually use on this channel when I do my presentation videos, that microphone is usually farther away. I don't like it right in front of my face, I back it off a little bit. But because it's directly in front of me, I do put a Stedman Pro Screen XL over it, which Stedman people were nice enough to send to me. So that is the reason why I don't like to put it in front of my face. I don't like the distraction. I don't like the potential of hitting it or having to be very restrictive with my movements. I like to just have a more natural sound. So I will back off on a microphone a little bit if it means having a little bit more of a natural sound. And here's a little secret for you. You don't have to swallow a microphone for it to sound good. People that do podcasts and all they do is push that proximity effect because they like to have a big bass boost drives me nuts. There are sometimes people that I can't listen to because they sound so outrageously, crazy boosted or something like that. And it just makes me shake my head and say, man, you're trying and I appreciate what you're doing. I just can't listen to you. It's not what I want to listen to, especially because a lot of the times I listen in my car. And people do what in their car stereo systems? They usually boost the bass. So you have someone that boosts that pushes the proximity effect, which boosts the bass. They might even add more bass in post, but I hope they don't. And then they play it back in their car stereo and they listen on a bass boosted system. Mine's always flat in my car. I like to just try to listen to everything flat. To me, if it can sound like it's supposed to, I would prefer that. It also gives me a chance to hear the way that people actually process it. So that is that's my answer to that. Why don't I put a microphone in the frame? What gear do you use in your videos? Well, when I'm here, you can watch my studio upgrade video, and I do talk about the gear that I use. But just as a quick recap, Cat Equitech E100 that goes into my Sound Devices Mix Pre 6, and I record directly in on that. And it sounds, great to me. I don't use an interface because then I have to turn on the computer and then that means I have to record on the computer. I'd much rather, part of me being a film sound guy, I'd rather have an external recorder. And the Mix Pre 6 is an amazing machine. It really is an amazing machine for what it is. I can use it as an audio interface when I turn on my computer too. And I can plug batteries in the back of it or use it off of a dedicated battery and take it out in the field and record with it. It's wonderful in every possible way to me. And and it's just a version 1. It doesn't even have the 32-bit float point like the version 2 does. I am not the least bit interested in 32-bit floating point, as I'm sure if you watched my live streams, you've talked to me about it or something like that. My opinion on it. I don't really see it as having a purpose for most recording. I mean, very, very rarely. But, if I ever get a Zoom F6 or somebody were to give me a great deal on an F8 or an F8N, I might take it. Even though I'm not fond of the digital limiters, I might go ahead and buy it just because it would mean that I would have a field recorder that I don't have to worry about taking the Mix Pre 6 away from my system. I just have a field recorder that I would use for my videos. However, on that note, I usually right now in a lot of the videos that I record, I will throw the Deity HD TX, which is it's a cube style recorder. It's not designed for you to wear it at all, but I do. I plug a lav into it and then I throw it in my pocket and it's a cube. It's not a wearable. It's if I were trying to hide it, there's no way you could because it's not designed for that. And so I usually hit record on that and I throw it in my pocket. And then I'll usually just use the WLAV Pro, which is the tan version because at the time of this video, the black version is a little bit more rare. And even though I usually wear black, I would prefer a black one. They're not out yet, so I'll probably get one as soon as it does drop, and I'll be a much happier person when I go out and do my field work. But I like the simplicity of it. I like the fact that it integrates in with a wireless system. So if I need to do any kind of wireless stuff, I can do that too. It's very convenient and it works well for me. So I'm going to do that. It's also cleaner than my other recorder, which is the Tascam DR40, DR80, whatever it is. I don't know. But I almost don't ever use that because it's not a very clean recorder. And I will only use it in videos where I'm trying to show that if you're on a budget, what can you do within that budget. So I might use the DR40. There it is, Tascam DR40. See how it just naturally rolled off the tongue when I was saying it and not trying to think of it, the model number. But the DR40, it just naturally started to, if I was testing like the VLAV, then I put the DXLR on the VLAV and then I plugged in the DR40. DR40 has some issues though. It squeals and does some weird stuff like that it's not supposed to, but it does. And I don't know if it's that particular one, or not, but I don't ever use it, so I don't really care. Anyway, that was my second, my third question rather, of what gear do you use? Oh, cameras. I didn't talk about cameras. Both of the cameras that I'm using right now have their limitations. Originally, when I started the channel, I was just using a webcam. The Logitech C920 works fine, but I used to always have to run every one of my videos through a sharpening process that would usually make the video render time on a 2 or 3 minute video take an hour and a half or something. I'm not kidding that, before I did my video upgrade or my computer upgrade. And when I did, it made it difficult for me, and I can't remember the exact reason why now, but I was unable to use the webcam for my videos. And so I can't remember why that is, but something changed, and I decided to try my GoPro. And to run it in linear mode. It was like 2.7K resolution or something, and then I would crop in or digitally change it. And I did that for a while, and then I decided I was going to get some mirrorless cameras. And the two that I got are both Panasonic Lumixes. The one that I usually use in the presentation video that you're watching on right now, I can remote via Wi-Fi to, this is an NVIDIA Shield, and I can control and record and whatever else through this. And I like that system. It works great. That's actually an NVIDIA Shield that I can use if I want to DJ in a very simple system. And I'll do that quite a bit if I just, believe it or not, I'll take a line out of that because I have all the gear, and I'll play music and blast it and whatever else. And you can actually beat match from this. And because it's an NVIDIA Shield, it's got a great graphics card and stuff. It doesn't skip, it doesn't, error or anything like that. And it's Android. I love Android. So that goes into my Lumix FZ80, I believe it is. It's in the description below. I always put the gear that I use in the description below. It's only like a $300 camera. It's a fixed lens. I think it's like 20 to 2000 millimeter lenses, something like that. It's fixed. It's not the greatest. If you zoom way in, resolution of it's kind of bad. Let the truth be known. But I basically use it in one of the widest, with only like maybe within 30 mil. I'll use it like 20 to 30 mil, and it doesn't, double in like a micro four thirds. Is that what it's called? Jeez, I've totally drawn a blank here. It's so late. Micro four, what is it? You know what I'm talking about. Micro, of course you're not going to say it. My brain is so frazzled right now. Anyway, whatever this camera is, this is a Lumix G7. So it's a DMC G7. And I got this so that it has a flip out screen, and I can actually flip this around and see it on the fly. And also has an audio input. The FZ80 doesn't. And also you cannot plug it in. So I would use it connected up all the time via power and just leave it up there. I don't have that option. It runs out of battery, and then I have to stop and pull it off the charger and cycle through the batteries. Sometimes the charger doesn't even, it will go green for a little bit, and then I'll look away, and then it won't charge the thing up. Or it'll go amber, and then it'll say, oh, it's ready now. It'll go green, and it didn't charge. So sometimes I'll I can't believe it. But between these two cameras is what I normally do. They're not picture matched or anything. But the reason I like them is because the one that I'm recording on right now, you don't have to restart every 30 minutes. This one here actually has, the reason I bought it is because it shoots 4K, and because it has a hack on it where I actually did the hack. But if you look at it and then you kill it, it goes to an exclamation point. That means it's been kind of jailbroken or had the hack work on it. And what that does is it makes the 4K mode not something that will stop after 15 minutes or half an hour, whatever it is. It'll record 4K infinitely. So if I want to record 4K nonstop for however long I want to, I'll use this camera. If I want to record 1080p forever, I'll record, for the simplicity's sake, on the FC80. But the G7 is what I normally use. Now the G7 has always, even before I did the little hack on it, it's always had one particular issue. And it's something I hate. So I've had to hire people in the past just to wash the camera. Now my 5-year-old is pretty good at spotting the little red dot, but it will, when I'm recording, it will flash this red dot. That camera will turn itself off in a heartbeat. If for whatever reason, I don't understand the purpose behind this. If you know, please by all means tell me. But the lens, it will look, even though it's fixed on there just fine, and it doesn't matter which lens I use, if it is on there, just sitting there, all of a sudden it will look like it jumps in or out and it will stop recording. And there is a ignore the lens or remove lens while, recording or whatever mode. Even if that's on, it doesn't matter. It will still pop in and pop out. And usually it means it goes brighter. It goes from exposed regular and it'll suddenly go really, really bright and change, the zoom or whatever. It'll change the focal length, even though it doesn't actually physically change it on the lens itself. This is a 14 to 140 lens. It won't change it on the actual lens itself. It will just suddenly decide for whatever reason to jump off. And sometimes I'll hit record and I'll come back a few minutes. I'm like, when did it stop recording? And I'll get so frustrated because it will have jumped off like right as soon as I hit the record button, like 10 seconds later. Sometimes it'll record just fine and it will record for hours. But I always have to have that little screen facing me with a little red dot, and I have to keep an eye on it. And if I'm going to be too far away and backed off on camera, then I will usually have somebody there. I'll either hire this one neighborhood kid who's a good guy, who will come and he'll watch the red line at the red light, and that's all he does. Or my 5-year-old will do it with me. She'll go out and record. She'll watch it. But the biggest issue I run into with her is that she gets excited and she'll talk in the middle of the take. So occasionally, if you watch my videos where I'm doing location stuff, you'll see my 5-year-old pop in there and she'll be talking. It's hilarious. And I'll say, sweetie, please don't talk. And she's like, okay, daddy. I'm like, all right, thanks. And then I'll say something, and then I'll do a really awkward cut in the edit because she will have started talking again. But anyway, so that's what the gear is that I normally use. And I'll probably at some point reach out to one of my camera friends, Kevin, basic filmmaker, Curtis Judd, somebody, and I'll ask, without charging, $2,000 or $3,000, is there a camera, even if it's a camcorder or something like that, that will look pretty decent, that will maybe allow me to plug it into some sort of a video card that has HDMI inputs. That way I don't have to use the webcam when I do live streams, and maybe one that will allow me to record 30 minutes, infinite amount of time or whatever, without having to restart the thing. That would be great. Sorry, I'm just listening. Because the house is kind of shook as if there was a thunder. We are having storms here tonight. So I was like, that's kind of interesting. I didn't hear anything, but the house kind of rumbled. Now, another question I get is, what's with the background? Well, if you watch my studio upgrade video, I did go through that, but I'll go ahead and tell you just because might as well. The purpose of this background is I do film work, and this is the way a soundstage is reinforced on the soundstages that you go to. They usually have what's called insole quilt, and they'll have this material over top of it. If they don't use chicken wire, then what they'll use is the hardware cloth, which is what that is. And it's coated in the sound stages. It's normally not, it's just wire, but this is actually coated. So that way it will go over. And if I scrape my arm or something like that on there, it's not going to cut me because it's like rubber reinforced or rubber coated. Now this, normally it comes in either 2 or in 4 feet widths, but I had to specially order the 3 foot. I like to do things a certain way, and to me, I like, the way they do it here. You don't have to put it nearly as often as this. It would have been fine if I just put it in the corners or spread it out and did only, the four corners at the top and the bottom. But I wanted it to be more visible with those because it would stand out to people as more of a soundstage looking look. And since I do that kind of stuff in the real world, in the film world, I would rather it look like a sound stage than whether it to look like a booth, which was a terrible look. It was a terrible sound when I first started the channel, but I didn't know I was going to do over 100 videos. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I only did the videos from the perspective of trying to reinforce my classes and answer questions so I don't have to do it all the time. And then it just took off from there and I started doing more and more and more with it. And then I was like, you know what? This is kind of cool. I'll do that. I'll just keep going. Another question I get is, are you going to be doing any more courses? My sound utility class is still available for sale for $50. If anybody's interested, it is a 5-hour, slightly over 5 hours lecture where I sat down and recorded it. And I did take questions to people that watched it live. And I did it in such a way where I would add them in, that they could hold up their hand and I would see that they were on the screen. And then as soon as I was done with the section, I'd bring them up and they could ask their question on camera. And then I would answer it and went back. And then I did that for a while. I did a couple of extra special features where, like one of them, for example, is I went through a bunch of pictures that were taken on set of me doing plant microphones or of different circumstances and situations that would be helpful to see pictures of. And that was cool. So that is available for $50. Am I going to be doing more classes like that? Well, the issue I run into is that some of the classes are difficult unless you do them hands-on. In the real world, one of the classes that I usually get a lot of great input for is my 2-day lav class. In the past, one of the things that I've done is we came in to talk about the lav, to talk about different ways and the mounting options and the accessories that you have with it, the different lavs. We listened to them and tried them and had that kind of environment interaction. And then we've had a second day. And one year we brought in people from the wardrobe department to talk to us about what looks great on camera, some tweaks that we could do. We helped them understand the sound perspective and they helped us understand the picture perspective. Because here's the thing, if a lav doesn't look right, they'll make sure it looks right. Even if we try to poke it out a little bit or something like that, if they say, nope, I'm seeing it, then they'll poke it back inside. Then it's useless to us, but it looks good on camera. So guess who's going to win? So there's a symbiotic relationship we have with the wardrobe people. And that class was really, really beneficial because they showed us some tricks. They're like, well, something that would help is if it were, you could ask us for this and then we'll do it. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Or they'll say, if someone's wearing a tie and you're going to put it inside, try this. And we're like, oh, that's cool too. So we learned quite a bit of things. But one of the things I also do in that is in the real world, it's easier to do when you're talking to professionals and stuff than trust YouTube and, have them suddenly flag a video. But one of the things I'll do is I'll bring in a male and I'll bring in a female. And I will have the male take off his shirt and we'll talk about the contours and how you can hide a lav around certain lines. And then how I have him put the shirt on and show how those natural lines on a male will be a place that you can hide a pretty big lav, even if it's reinforced with wind. And then we do the same thing with a woman. And she's going to be she normally will wear a bathing suit top. And that's one of the reasons why it wouldn't necessarily go over very well for YouTube in this particular environment, because people would say, ooh, look at this, and not bothered to acknowledge the fact that it's a very serious thing. Getting in someone's personal space and is a very serious thing. And there is an etiquette behind it. There is a bedside manner, to use the doctor terminology to it. And that would not convey very well through YouTube. If I did something like that, it would probably be, I'd have to pre-record a few segments and then play those to a crowd live and then answer questions, because it probably would not lend itself very well to actual videos that are going to be public on the channel. But laving is one of those things you kind of need to feel. You need to hear it live and adjust and do hands-on adjustments. If you add this, if you do this, if it's sticking out a little bit, if you put it in there, if you don't add a piece of tuck, if you don't do a strain relief loop, if you use, you have to feel that. And it's nothing I can really teach great. I could teach a boom class, but then you're not going to be able to swing a boom around, are you? You could watch me do it, but I'm going to probably do some videos in the future and talk about the ways that I handle a pole. There's one video that's going to be coming up soon. That's well, when I say soon, I mean the next few months. That's going to be fun because it's a term that I kind of coined based on a technique, and it may have another name. I'm sure that I'm not the guy that invented it, but I did come up with a name that I like, and I personally find it to be kind of clever, and it fits the purpose pretty well. And I'll show that, and that will be in time. But in the meantime, what courses would you want to see me do? Because I have taught everything from plant mics and laving to I've done 3-hour-long lectures that were hands-on, and the house is shaking again. And no, we're not having earthquakes. It's just really weird. It's the storm, I guess. So weird. It's not it's not thunder, but it's shaking the house. But what classes would you want me to do? Because I could easily I did a 3-hour-long lecture on cables and how best practices for them, how to clean them, how to tape them down, and I have videos on like how to tape them down. But I just, there you go. So what classes would you want me to do? What classes could I teach and do interestingly enough through YouTube or through my own separate means? Why? Here's the next question for you. Why don't I review more gear? Well, quite frankly, I don't have an interest in a lot of gear. I'm very selective about the things I review. I used to review only about maybe 25% of the stuff that I was offered. And then I went down to like 10, 15. And then probably now I'm probably only reviewing maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5% of what I'm offered. And most of the time I just will tell people, no, I'm not interested. I have zero interest in a lot of the stuff that people want to send. Manufacturers want to send. And so I will usually handpick stuff. And I do know that if you did more reviews, then discoverability for the channel would go up. Nothing is going to do it better than if I were to get a particular brand new product and review it. But the thing is, my review style is a little bit more hands-on. I don't just take a microphone, put it up in front of me and talk into it like some people do. I can't do all the stuff Bandrew does, where I compare it to every single other microphone known to man, sing, play guitar, do all that kind of stuff. I don't have those talents or microphones. But what I can do is take a shotgun microphone higher and higher over on different length boom poles. I can take them into different environments. I can wash them in the shower or do whatever I need to do to verify the thing works. And I can do that kind of thing. Those kinds of things are fun when I can find the time to shoot them. And that's the big thing, is a lot of the product reviews that I do, I find that I want to be more detailed. And so I will be more detailed, and then it just takes forever for me to do the thing. And I don't want the videos to be overly long. The Deity HDTX video was 43 minutes long. And then when I reviewed every single Deity lav there is, that video was 50 minutes long. And there are timestamps there, but those 2 videos don't have a whole lot of views in comparison to pretty much every other video on those, even though it's a lot more thorough. When I took the 4 lavs from Deity, I put them facing up outside the shirt, underneath the shirt. I put them sideways. I put them facing downwards, walking over regular concrete, walking over stones, walking over carpet in a low ambience, high ambience, mid-range ambience, outdoors, indoors. I did all these different things. I screamed into it. I did loud things. I did quiet things. I did, all kinds of different tests. And yet it's done okay and only okay. But then it's really a bit frustrating to me when smaller channels will grab it. They'll do a 4-minute long video where they simply just talk into it with a camera, kind of like what I've done now for this video, and don't stop talking for 4 minutes, and they just simply talk about their experience on it, and then they call that a review with no real test or anything like that. I just kind of say, I can't do that. That's not me. I have to test it multiple different ways and do various different things, even though that is technically a review. And those are the kind of videos that sometimes show up with tens of thousands of more views than mine get. I can't help but be a little bit bitter when I spend all this time on it. I could very easily just listen to it a couple of times and say, "Here, I love this thing. This is great. It's a wonderful thing." And it's 4-minute video and you upload with no intro, outro, or anything on it. I could do that. It's just not going to make me happy. But then the way that I like to review things, it's going to take a while. So I will be more selective about the things I want to spend that time on. And usually if I want to spend time on something and do a review, it's going to have something that interests me. Like right now at the time of this video, I'm very interested in doing a lot of boom pole reviews. So I'm trying to review all the major players. And there's only 2 manufacturers that are not interested in sending me a boom as of now. One of them is American company, and the other one's a French company. And neither one of them are responding to my emails, but who knows? Maybe after I get the other videos of the other competitors out, I just don't want to have anybody left out. I'm going to be very, very open and honest about my reviews, especially of the boom poles. I understand that not every boom pole is for every person. You will have a certain preference based on certain things that are important to you, and I want to be able to portray that and show that. And if there are better options or better like with the case of the newer one that I did, that to me, I was not happy with that, especially since you could only spend, a couple of $20 bills more and get a much better boom pole that's not gonna, make noise under its own weight pretty much. It's crazy. Anyway, so why don't I review more gear? Basically because a lot of gear doesn't interest me, and I would rather concentrate on the things that do interest me because that's what I'll put my heart and soul into. And when I do review gear, I have a tendency of going really long with it. So I don't want to do that. Why is my video quality all over the place, especially when I do location stuff? The reason why is because, remember the cameras that I mentioned? Well, I can't use the one that I'm doing right now without setting up the NVIDIA Shield as a monitor. And so I don't want to do that in the field because then I have to constantly watch it. I don't want to, if I take the Lumix G7 out there, it runs the risk of shutting off all the time. And so I'll set it up, I'll hit record, then I'll sometimes look at the screen and because I have a light on top of the camera because I'm using other lights, sometimes I'll look at it and I'll say it's underexposed, it's overexposed. I'll do something stupid to it and then totally goof it up because I think the monitor on it is a lot more forgiving than it deserves to be because I'll say, oh, that looks great. And then I'll bring it in and I'll say, why is it all dark? And why am I, I'm orange? And I look at this and I'll shake my head saying, what is wrong with this thing? Why would it do that? It is what it is. But as soon as I don't have run the risk of having to potentially stop the camera stop recording and I lose footage. There's sometimes I've hit record and I've gone back and had to shoot the same footage 10 times because the camera will stop in the middle of something for whatever reason. It just decides to. I'll get a better camera eventually and then it may change and I can actually set it up and not worry about it. It would be great if I could set it up with some sort of an external battery and plug it in. I'd much prefer to do that than turn the camera on and then try to frame it up real quickly and then say, this thing looks out of focus and then just whatever. But that's one of the reasons why my video is usually all over the place because the monitor is more forgiving on that camera than I would prefer it to be, more realistic. And because I'm usually in a rush because I don't want the thing to stop recording in the middle. So I'll hit record, I'll make some changes and also light levels and stuff will change. And I don't leave it in an automatic setting to do that. I go straight manual with it. And I know what I'm doing there. I just don't set it right because I'm, I don't know, lunatic. Call me that if you want. Last question that I'll go ahead and address here is, do I do guest speaking or appearances? I've gotten that question before. And I have spoken to large groups in person and even through the internet. The main thing I will say is if you have a school or something, there's a guy that I'm talking to right now, actually, who's interested in me talking to his school as an extracurricular thing on the weekend. I'll gladly do that. No problem at all. There have been people that want to bring me out to your area and do a 2 or 3 day seminar or something on something. I'll gladly do that. Let's talk. The one thing that I'm very, very annoyed with is when I'm contacted saying, "Hey, can you get us some quotes, get us some information, put together this stuff," and then I don't hear back from them. And then sometimes people will say, "Well, we didn't hear, you didn't follow up with this." I'm like, "You didn't give me a chance to, or you asked for something. I gave you a price list. I told you what it would be, and then you didn't follow back up with me." And then I'm not going to hunt you down. There are some people that will ask me a question and then say, "Call me at this time," or I'm like, I'm not going to hunt you down. I don't have time to sit there and say, "Okay, it went to voicemail. I'll try back again later." Okay. And then, if I'm trying to do you a favor, or you want me, then call me. I will gladly return your call. I'm an outgoing guy. I will return your email. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind joining you in a Skype call if you want to do a a class for your students in your city or whatever. I don't mind doing that. I don't mind doing an interview. There's a lot of interviews and guest appearances I'll do on other channels. If I'm approached, I'll almost always accept because I'm glad to share information and knowledge. I love doing that. But what I don't like is hunting people down, saying, do I need to follow up with you? Do I need to follow up with you? I'm not going to do that. I end up spending so much time and do that. And then someone says, "Oh, well, we changed our mind," or "We didn't have the interest that I thought we would. Sorry, I should have gotten back to you," or something along those lines. But I have spoken to people about the shows I've worked on, about what it's like working in the film industry, about opportunities in the film industry, about, answer all the different questions in like a school film or video class, that kind of thing. So yes, to answer your question, if you were one of the people interested in that answer, I do guest appearances. I will come out and teach or whatever else. If you're interested, just shoot me an email. My email is in the description below. And at the end of this video. So I know I've gone nearly an hour, which is much longer than I expected this to be. I honestly thought for some reason I'd be able to answer all of these questions in about 20 minutes, but I find that it's almost like doing a live stream. I kind of want to just talk and talk and talk forever. But I know that camera's going to die at some point. It's got 2 out of 3 bars on it, so maybe it might go for a while. But regardless, I wanted to at least go over a few things, a few changes, answer some questions that I've gotten, quite often. And once again, I'll reiterate my big thank you to you for being part of this channel. If you're watching at this point, either you fast forwarded through the whole thing or maybe even listened to this entire video. And I appreciate your interest in me. If it's not me, it's my content, then I appreciate you interested in the film type content that I do or my insights, anything of the sort. I appreciate you for spending your time. There's a lot that can be said for spending your time with somebody. And you can't ever get that time back. And I appreciate the fact that you spend it here learning or interested in hearing what I have to say about whatever that happens to be. That means a lot. And I appreciate the fact that a lot of people will come to this channel and just watch a video or two and then leave. That's fine. You got your information and that's fine. I'm glad to have offered that, even if you don't comment, even if I don't even know you're there. But if you're watching this video, chances are you're one of the people that have watched my videos in the past. You might have even subscribed. If not, you at least, keep an eye on my channel at the time I usually drop a new video. And you at least have enough of an interest to stay with me for certain types of content. And that I appreciate too. I do this channel because I have a passion and love for teaching. And I have a passion and a love for teaching and talking about sound with people that are interested in talking about sound. It does cost a lot of money. It does cost a lot of time and sleep. It does cost just a lot of energy in general. And it is something that has been very difficult to not burn out at. And sometimes I do get burned out about it, but I still crank out a video. Sometimes it's, I'll end up taking a video and I will push it because I want it to be the right way. I'll push it again to the following week, and then I'll shoot another video to release more currently. And some videos take a long time to do. My 32-bit floating point video took forever for me to shoot and edit and piece together and everything. And I only got it done because it was the COVID shutdown. That was the only, because I kept trying to get the thing done, but it was taking forever. And if you watch that video, it's extremely detailed. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of research in it. I had to figure out the tactic and the way that I wanted to approach it and then deliver on that. And I like to think that it's pretty good, even though it doesn't have nearly as many views as many other videos do about the same topic online, that I don't find to be nearly as descriptive. But regardless, those are my thoughts and opinions. I do want to thank you again for being part of this. 5 digits. I didn't think we'd ever get there, and I can already pretty much tell you right now, even in 20 years, I don't think I'll have a silver play button. I don't think this channel is ever going to be big enough to do that. It's a niche of a niche of a niche interest, film, audio. I don't think there's ever going to be enough people that are really diehard about it enough to get me up to that level. So this is always going to be one of those things where I believe that it's going to be the people that are more interested in following the content are the people that are going to be subscribed, and the others are going to be coming in and doing a search for a certain video, finding it, and then leaving. But regardless, I appreciate those people, you, whoever, for being here. Thanks for watching this almost podcast type form of content here. Sorry it went extremely long. And be sure to tune in the future for a lot more sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.